Hi again, guys. This is Chris, and we are looking at Advanced Excel, Intermediate Excel exercises. What we're going to be doing now is to look at working with functions within functions. We're going to be using VLOOKUP as the foundation of what we do, combining it with if and any other function that may be appropriate for what we're doing. Now, first of all, let's take a look at the exercise that we're working with. There's a reason why we want to use our functions in the way that we do. If we take a look at this particular exercise, you'll notice that it's 11,000 rows in length. Therefore, there are certain ways that we have to use it because of how big our spreadsheet is. And remember, our spreadsheets are going to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger because Excel, and I'm using version 2010, has the ability to have a spreadsheet that may be over 16 billion cells in size. Alright, let's go. So let's do this exercise. We're going to be doing a VLOOKUP, and when we're using the VLOOKUP, we will have a lookup table. The lookup table is going to be used by every single formula that uses VLOOKUP. So as I ask all my students to do, and I ask you to do as well, we will name the lookup table. We will highlight the cells that constitute our lookup table, and we're going to use the name box. And for the purposes of what I'm doing, we will call this lookup table lookup. We're going to write our first formula, the first VLOOKUP formula for basic cost of plan. So the plan type represents the column that we are looking up. So I'm going to use column D as our lookup. I'm going to use insert function on the formula bar, and we're going to look for VLOOKUP. Now in this section where it says select a function, VLOOKUP is at the top. That's what I'm going to use. However, if in your select a function window you do not have VLOOKUP, you will type it VLOOKUP. It will appear in the search for a function window, and we click on go. VLOOKUP is now at the top of the select a function window, and OK. My lookup value is, as we said, plan type. For the row that I'm in, it's in cell D6. The table array we called lookup. Now you know that these features are working properly because on the right hand side of our function arguments window, when we choose the value that we want to work with or type it in, it appears on the right hand side. Call index num, the column in the lookup table where the value we want to use must come from. We want to use column 2 in our lookup table. We're going to be using range lookup because we must find the exact value. That is, in the lookup table, our VLOOKUP function must find the value 1 before it gives us the answer. So that looking at our lookup table very quickly at plan type 1, you'll see that the basic cost of plan is 50. And here it found the 50 for us. Now next, for the spreadsheet that we're working with, there are going to be additional costs that come into play. Those additional costs will only kick in if the column to the left has a Y. So I'm going to be using two functions. I'm going to be using VLOOKUP in a calculation to find what the additional cost is. However, the additional cost will only be used if the column to the left has a Y. So I'll be using if and VLOOKUP. Now for the purposes of what we do, I write the VLOOKUP first because I can insert function and put the VLOOKUP in, which may have a few more steps. The if function I will type. So let's go to insert function again. and we're going to use VLOOKUP. The lookup value, now a table array is lookup, call index num is now 3. I want to use the third column from in my lookup table, which represents the additional cost for smoking. And lookup range lookup must always be false. So let's scroll over to our lookup table very quickly. Basic cost of plant is the second column, smoking is the third column, multiple partners fourth column, health the fifth column. So when I'm working with the column of that heading, I know that I'll use, as I've just used, column 3. When I reach the multiple partners, we'll use column 4, and for health we use column 5. Let's go back to our formula. Now this formula is not complete in finding the answer, because I must multiply the value that it has found by the basic cost of plant. So that is the additional cost for smoking, but only if smoking is Y. So this is where the if will come. It will come in, and this is, I'm going to edit my formula by pressing F2 so that we can all see it clearly. And I'm going to click in between the VLOOKUP and the equal sign. I'm going to type the if. Now it would be really nice if I could have inserted it in, but insert doesn't work. It doesn't work when I have two functions in one cell. So I'm going to type the if, open bracket. Notice it's now giving me an indicator as to how to use the if. So even though I haven't gone into the insert function, I do have this indicator. The logical test is if this column, this cell under smoking, is equal to Y. Now you'll notice that when I type the Y, I use the double quotes because the Y that I'm typing is a string. And once I'm typing a string, I have to use the double quotes. So if smoking, if that cell is equal to Y, then it will use the VLOOKUP multiplied by the cell E6. Otherwise, and I'm going to put a comma, remember we separate our arguments by using commas, otherwise it's not supposed to print anything. And I close the brackets. Let's accept that now. Okay, now one of the things, and I've said it quite a bit to those who I work with, when I'm working with an Excel spreadsheet, I'll spend hours to plan it, but when I'm writing the formulas, I want to do the formulas as quickly as possible, and accurately of course, so that I don't spend a lot of time trying to make my spreadsheet look the way that I want, because I already planned it. Now, I'm therefore not going to want to write this formula over again. I am going to copy the formula. Not only am I going to copy it down, but I'm also going to copy it across. Now to copy it across, there are some things that I will have to make absolute, meaning to put the $sign in so they won't change when I copy across. Now we always have to read column D, and we always have to read the basic cost of plant. But all the other things can change. Now, it means that I need to make E in E6 in this formula absolute, because I'm always going to be reading column E, not always row 6, but always column E. So I'm going to click in the reference in the formula on the formula bar, and then I'm going to press F4 on the keyboard to put the $sign in. And I'm going to make sure the $sign is to the left of E6. And I'm going to do the same thing for D6. D6, which is the column D, which is a column that plant type is in. Again, we don't want to always read row 6, but we certainly always want to read column D. So in the formula, click in the reference D6, and press F4 so that the dollar sign is to the left of the 6, of the D rather. Now I'm going to accept that. Control C, or I could use right click and copy, and I'm going to paste on the formula bar. Why? Because I want to paste it again for each of the cells that I need to calculate values for. Okay. Now, as I said before, in our VLOOKUP formula, we're going to change 3 to 4, indicating that we're using the fourth column for multiple partners. And I'm going to change this one to 5, because in our lookup column we're working with column 5 is health. And then here I'm going to write a function again. I'm going to use a sum, and I'm going to add up column E, G, I, and K. But of course, because the formulas, because I use the AutoSum, I'm going to go to insert function. Because all the numbers that we want to add up are not beside each other, in the insert function window for sum, I have to use a different argument for each value that I want to add up. If all of these values were in one continuous range, then I would have used one argument and highlighted all of them. But because they're in different cells, I put them in different arguments. It is arguable that I could have used plus plus plus. That would have worked as well. Okay, so now that I've done this, now that I've done the first row and I'm confident that the formulas are correct, I go to each individual formula, black plus key to the right hand side of the cell, which you know is the copy fill symbol, and double click. So that's basic cost of plan. Same thing for smoking. And you notice that I'm not getting an answer calculated for each cell under additional cost for smoking, because there is a Y to the left of some of the values. So once there's an N to the left of some of those values, and once we have the N, the if function kicks in, and well, the if function is kicking in for everything, but once the column to the left says N, it will not do the VLOOKUP calculation. And this is the same for each. And then we do the total cost. Alright guys, so that is the exercise. Play this through again until you get comfortable with the concept of working with a function inside a function. Bye for now.